Okay, so what a way to kick off the new season of championship rings because Micah Parsons got traded right before we got on the air. Josh, how you doing, my man?
Literally, I had just texted you like minutes before this news came out saying, hey, can we talk about this Micah Parsons news? Because reports had come out that the Packers were willing to listen to trade offers. And then what, like 10 minutes later, maybe not even, boom, we find out he's traded to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, so sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for this anticlimactic start. We had all of these graphics and everything planned out, ready to go for the new season, and Micah Parsons just shut down every plan we had. So let's get into it. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We're gonna get into the big college football games for week one. We're gonna talk all things Major League Baseball, the potential new media rights deal. We're gonna talk about everything that's been going on in wrestling over the past month since we've been away. But Josh, I don't want to spoil anything because this Sunday we're going to be live at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Be there or be square on our Championship Rings Twitter account at Rings Champion, on the Younger to the Max YouTube channel, on the Championship Rings YouTube channel. We're going to be giving away our full 2025 NFL predictions from top to bottom. I don't want to spoil anything, but let me just say before this trade, I had the Green Bay Packers having a very good year. Now, in my opinion, if you ask me, again, without spoiling anything, I think they are right up there at the top of the class in the NFC.
They just became the top threat to your Philadelphia Eagles.
Again, without spoiling anything, I do agree.
Without a doubt. Spoiler alert, I already had them winning the NFC North this season. This trade just solidified that. All they had to give up was nose tackle Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks.
And those picks are going to be at the bottom of the first round. For all we know, they may end up being 32. Now, it's this year, coming up in the 2026 draft, and I believe 2027 as well. Now, here's the thing. Another spoiler, but again, not getting into the two specifics here yet. I thought the Dallas Cowboys were going to be a bad football team this year, not even sniffing the postseason prior to this Micah Parsons trade. Now, if you ask me, it has signified what I said the Dallas Cowboys should do going into last year. I said they should not have given Dak Prescott the big contract. I said they should have found a way to move on from Dak. I said they needed to go out. They needed to take a big swing. They needed to go out and either get Bill Belichick or they needed to pair Deion Sanders with his son, Shedeur Sanders. And yet, what they decided to do was, let's hire Brian Schottenheimer and trade for George Pickens. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here today. This is not my Philadelphia Eagle fan to be talking. I promise you to tell you the Dallas Cowboys brand as America's team is officially dead once again because the Dallas Cowboys are now dead as a franchise once again. They may be sitting there thinking, can we try to get Arch Manning, whether he comes out this year or next year?
Yeah. I'm going to have to change my NFC East predictions because I had them finishing third behind the Commanders and Eagles. Not exactly in that order, but I'm not going to get more into it. Now, I'm looking at the Giants and I'm going, maybe they could jump the Cowboys for third place in that division.
Right. I mean, the hard part is with the Giants, they have the hardest schedule for a fourth place team I've ever seen. And who knows what they're going to get a quarterback. And Brian Dable and Joe Shane may be fired by October. But I can totally see a world where the Giants now finish third and the Cowboys finish fourth. Like, I think it's on the board. By the way, if you have not already, I'm not here to give gambling advice. I know, Josh, you don't gamble a lot. But before this trade happened, I already bet the Cowboys win total at under 7.5. I guarantee if that line hasn't moved yet, go do it right now, people, because it's going to be under 7.5.
Think about this. Week 4, Sunday
Yes.
Night Football.
The day before my birthday, by the way. What a treat this is going to be for me.
Packers at Cowboys. Micah returns to Dallas. But I'll tell you another big one, and it involves your Dallas Cowboys. Week 10.
Wait, my Dallas Cowboys?
Wait, oops. I meant your Philadelphia Eagles. I stand corrected. Sorry. It's because we're talking about Dallas and all that.
I could punch my computer screen right now for you to even think that the Dallas Cowboys are my team. I know what you meant. Go on.
Your Philadelphia Eagles travel to Lambeau to take on the Packers. Week 10 Monday Night Football.
They do.
Yes. Those two games just became the biggest of the season, in my opinion.
Wait, Packers Cowboys is not the biggest game of the season.
I'm saying Packers Cowboys purely from a storyline perspective.
Yeah, bro. You know they're my Cowboys. Yeah, you got a kick out of that. All right.
Yes. I'm saying that week 4 game purely from a storyline perspective. And then that week 10 game, because the Packers and Eagles already have a rivalry, and this just added more fuel to the fire.
Yeah, and I think it's a rivalry now that's going to be a conference rivalry. Could be pretty similar to the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs or the Bengals and Chiefs or whatever. Like, I'm sorry. For you Lions fans, friend of the show, Jalen Sandvik is a big Detroit Lions fan. We both said at the end of last year, that year, no matter what injuries they got on defense, felt like that was the year for the Lions win the Super Bowl. They could not get it done. Now, all of a sudden, you got to go up against Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary, and still mostly that defensive front with a Packer team that won 11 games last year with Jordan Love basically hobbled throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
And by the way, let's not underestimate what impact this could have for the Packers on the offensive side of the ball. Because if you have a good defense, we all saw what Philadelphia's defense did for the offense last year. We know they have Josh Jacobs a running back. We know the cast of receivers they have. If Matthew Golden out of Texas becomes a number 1 wide receiver, look out for the Green Bay Packers.
Yes. I was already planning on going to that week 3 game here in Cleveland between
Good luck, Joe Flacco. The stretcher crew maybe getting ready. I suggest the backup quarterback that's about as tall as me better get rid of the come in and play. More on that Sunday, ladies and gentlemen.
Trust me, I was already planning on going to that game because I've never actually seen the Packers here in Cleveland. Well, I did in preseason, but for me, that doesn't count. But now there's no way I'm missing this game. You're telling me I get to see Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary, the green and gold. What?
And by the way, you'll probably be able to get cheap tickets for $5 possibly in the dog pound.
You're probably right. Though I expect the Browns to be 1-1 going into that game. But you talked about it, though, in terms of what impact this could have on the Packers offense. I expect Green Bay to be a very run-heavy team, kind of like your Eagles were last year with Saquon. I don't know if Green Bay will use Josh Jacobs quite to the same extent that the Eagles use Saquon. But nonetheless, like I said, I expect them to be very run-heavy.
Well, that is Matt LaFleur's background. Remember when he came from Tennessee to Green Bay? That was the whole conversation with him and Aaron. I mean, let's not forget, Aaron Rodgers did win 2 back-to-back MVPs in this very offense.
Yes. And so when you run the ball effectively and can have long drives, guess what? That gives the defense time to rest, recover, and you're telling me I get to put potentially a fresh Micah Parsons next to Rashawn Gary, along with some of their other pieces? Yeah, good luck being the Packers.
And just when I had my optimism about the Chicago Bears this year,
Yeah. That Packers-Lions game in week 1, as if it wasn't already interesting enough, now we get this piece of news.
Well, here's the other part. This was the first thought that came to mind. Did you agree with me that all of a sudden Micah Parsons is going to go, you know what? My back feels pretty damn good.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I mentioned this to you off air right before we got started. It's interesting to me, and I understand why we're leading off the show with this, but like all offseason, Micah Parsons was the big story of what's going to happen with him and the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and, all the different things. But you still had everything with Terry McLaurin not having a deal. You still had everything with Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals. And yet you didn't hear a lot about either one of them because it was Micah this, Micah that. Oh, Jerry Jones said this.
Well, that's the difference, right? For the Commanders, it was mostly private with McLaurin. Everybody sort of thought, even if he did request a trade at some point, he was going to come back to Washington. The Anderson thing got a little bit dicey, obviously, because Cincinnati's cheap and they were floating him around and all that. But Jerry Jones is the one that made this thing public by going out every day and saying, look at us. And also they had that documentary about the Cowboys in the 90s come out on Netflix, and Jerry was doing publicity for that and basically confirmed that, yeah, I'd rather have a terrible football team and have you guys talk about me 24 hours a day than me never talk and us to have a great football team.
Is it purely because it was the Cowboys that this Micah Parsons news dominated the headlines and the airwaves?
I think Jerry had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
Going out there talking every day. I mean, they made a new story out of it every day because Jerry every day would come on and basically say, hey, this is between me and Micah. And Micah said, you shut out my agent, which is, by the way, technically illegal. And Jerry Jones knows this. Jerry Jones has violated the NFL CBA and doesn't seem to care.
Because, I mentioned this to you a couple times on our show, I think. In my opinion, between the Micah Parsons story and the Terry McLaurin news, I felt like the Terry McLaurin contract situation with the Commanders was the bigger story.
Yeah, obviously, they didn't get him back. That would have been a huge loss for them, and everybody had more higher expectations for the Commanders this year. They do the Cowboys. Again, does this take Dallas from a 6-win team to a 4? Maybe.
But do you get my point though? That is it?
Well, it's because Micah overall. I'm sorry, if you're just ranking players, Micah's a better player than Terry McLaurin.
That I agree with, but he's not at least in my opinion, he's not a more impactful player.
I've argued with you on Micah Parsons' impact, but I do think edge rusher is a more premium position than receiver. So if I'm taking the choice between the two players, I take Micah, especially, by the way, for a Commanders team that has absolutely no pass rush.
That part is true, yes. And there was no way the Dallas Cowboys were going to trade Micah Parsons in the division. I'm honestly...
No, I never thought he was going to the Eagles. There was speculation out there. Obviously, he went to Penn State. I never thought in a million years it was going to happen.
Oh, no way.
I didn't even think he'd go to the NFC. I'm shocked he's going to the same conference.
I'm even more shocked he's going to the Packers because the Packers might as well be a division rival for the Cowboys considering the long history those two have.
Well, and think about this. They never really acquire big-name free agents. The moves they make are mostly in the draft and the occasional trade. This may be the biggest trade in the history of the franchise.
Hell, for God's sakes, the draft was in Green Bay, and what did they do? They draft
wide receiver for the first round in over 20 years. Now, saying that, do I think Micah Parsons is worth $47 million a year annually? I have been on the record. I do not think that because I don't even think Myles Garrett's worth $40 million. I don't think Trey Anderson's worth that money. I said at the time we signed Garrett back in March, I would never pay a defensive lineman $40 million a year. But this is the rate we're going. The salary cap is going to go up. And you know what? I'm sure they're going to do some contingencies in there, some signing bonuses, and 2-3 years down the line, he's going to be cheap.
Yeah. But God, as if the NFC wasn't already scary enough, now you get this, because you have the Eagles, you have the Packers, you have the Commanders, you have the Vikings, or maybe the Vikings, we'll see, maybe the Bears, but you have Tampa Bay. Atlanta looks like they could be a decent team. You know, the NFC is going to be scary. Plus, you have the Rams. If Matthew Stafford
if
is
you
healthy.
think of the NFC right now, I think the only teams you can generally make a case the Cowboys are better than is the Saints and maybe the Giants and maybe the Panthers.
No, I would argue the Panthers are actually better because of how well Bryce Young played towards the end of the season.
That's why I said maybe.